What is on top of the deck? What is on top of the deck? Oh, it's Lightning Helix! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Hello everyone and welcome into the show. Welcome to the Brawldurs Gate Alchemy League Gauntlet Sealed Arena League. I am your host, John, aka Goku or Go Home, and I am pumped, I am hyped, I am excited for a new Magic League for us to all play in together, a singleton brawl. Get your commander, pick your color pair, get your archetypes ready, here they come. It's gonna be a good time. I am excited and I hope you are too.
Welcome to Hunt the Week.
Welcome into the show. The show is called Hunt the Week, a weekly podcast about the Arena Gauntlet League that we are all in together as a family. If you're a Riveteer, rise up. I remember you, and I'm looking right at you. I'm expecting big, big things. And we are in the beginning. We're right before week 1. Pools have been rolled, and we're going to talk a little bit about strategy, a little bit about the new player experience, and then we're going to have Chris York come on for a nice little interview. Let's go ahead and let's get to our first segment where we will specialize.
It's time to specialize.
It's time to specialize. We're talking tips and tricks. We are talking Brawldurs Gate, and we are talking Arena Sealed League. So what's different this time? 60 card decks is the same, but it's singleton format. We're playing Brawl. It's basically Commander. You get a Commander, you pick them, and that's your color pair, that's your archetype. And when you lose, you can get a random historic pack, or they call it the Silver Bullet, and that's 1 uncommon, 2 commons. Personally, I think Silver Bullet is the way to go, and I'm going to tell you my strategy here from the beginning on air, and you're going to take this journey with me through the league until I crash out week 3, week 4. Coming in, I had a strategy of going green, black, green, blue. I want a ramp, and I want powerful cards. Now, I did not open a commander that's going to allow that. I'm very upset. I'm pretty sad because I'm not going to start opening packs and trying to chase a commander in a color pair I want to be in. So I am forced into a red-green color pair from the beginning, unless I change my mind sometime in the next couple days. But right now we're looking at a red-green color pair, and we're going all silver bullets. That's the plan. All silver bullets all the time. I already got a list of cards I want. Are you in black? Boy, I hope you're grabbing that Morbid Opportunist, that Ravenous Chupacabra, and maybe even a little Binding of the Old Gods for the Golgari. If you're in Gruul, I'm probably just grabbing Ramp. Just Mana Dorks and Ramp for the first little bit. That's the strategy. Mana Dorks and Ramp, they're going to fit well with my commander, who is Draga is my commander. Basically, they pump Mana Dorks, get +2/+2. Mana Dork attacks. I get to untap it. If I cast a 7-mana spell, target creature gets +7/+7, and trample. So we're basically going for a ramp, big mana, green, red deck. Not my usual strategy. Not a color pair I love to play, but again, I wasn't given a commander in a color pair that I'm super excited about in my pool. So we're going red-green, and we're going to stick with it the entire time. I'm not changing it. I don't really plan on opening any packs, except for maybe near the end if I got my deck filled out and I don't really know what else to do. Is that right? I don't know. It's up for debate. It's an opinion. You can definitely get lucky opening packs. But frankly, myself, I always have 250 cards in my sideboard. We're going to shrink that number down a lot, and we are going to strategically pick our deck this time and see if it'll do it. I don't know. Again, I'm sure it'll work for certain people with certain commanders. I'm not in love with what I got going on, but it's what we're going to do. I've got a plan, and I'm not about to jump ship. And let's talk about some changes. We're starting on Saturday. If you're a new player, we do 60-card decks, not 40-card decks. It's Brawl. You have to do 60 cards. You play your 5 games a week. You can play as little as 3 in the first week. I do recommend playing all 5. 3 color commanders might give you a huge advantage, but you're going to have a kind of rough mana base as you go. Now, this is a singleton format. Don't put in any doubles. If you open 4 Owlbears, I am sorry for you. And that's it. We're in week 1. It's going to be a great time. Make sure you get all your games in, and this is a marathon. This is not a sprint, okay? If you go 1-4 in week 1, you are not out of it. And if you go 5-0 in week 1, you are not necessarily making top 8. There are 6 weeks, and you got to have a good record throughout all of those weeks to make the top 8. You're out at 11 losses. We're going to start losing people at week 3, and week 4 is usually the bloodbath week. And don't just take it all from me. I did have a special guest come on the show this week to kind of help me figure out what's going on. Where does this league? Where does it come from? Why these cards? Why 9 packs? Well, let's go on an adventure.
Here we go, 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 on an adventure. The thingamajigger is up. Go, 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 go.
On today's adventure, I sit down with League founder Chris York, and we have a nice discussion about the Brawldurs Gate League, where the league came from, got some good stories out of them, and asked him some interesting questions. So let's go ahead and listen to my conversation with Chris York. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, the one, the only, you know him, you love him, one Chris York. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
I'm all right, John. Thanks for having me on today. And I think you're half right. Maybe people know me, but the love, well, we don't go that far.
Oh, come on. Maybe respect. Instead of love, people respect. There you go. The much respected Chris York.
That's possibly more accurate. I'm not sure.
Well, welcome to the show. Really appreciate you coming on. I know you're kind of the founding entity behind the league, and you go back further than anyone else does. I appreciate you coming on. And I'm excited for this new league. I can't wait.
Yeah, me too. Me too. There's a lot of things to speak for it, and there's a few sort of irregularities about it. But I guess we'll get into that.
Oh, we're gonna get deep into it, Chris. Deep. We're gonna be trudging through this thing. So I know you're an old school player. I'm gonna ask everyone that comes on the show this question: when did you start playing Magic, Chris?
I like this icebreaker question because I think it says a lot about your relationship with the game. It gives your bona fides. So I started with Ice Age in 1996. I was driving around in a hand painted van. I had tried to start up an artist collective, and it had just flopped. And my girlfriend and I were traveling through Canada, and we ended up at this friend of a friend's place that was just full of teenagers and 20-somethings just wasting their time. And one of them or two of them were hooked on Magic, and I watched them play, and I'm like, well, what's this now? Hold on now. And we had a couple days to kill while we recovered from our travels, and so I got into the game. And when I left, after many matches of Goblins versus Merfolk or whatever the decks were the guy had, he gave me a bunch of commons to make my own decks with because I expressed interest in the game. So I put them in the van and drove back to Nova Scotia. And when I got there, most of the cards over the floor of this GMC work van. But I mean, it wasn't the world's worst tragedy. There were no Lotuses in there, just real shitty stuff. Like probably the best card was a 7/6 for 8 mana. The Scaled Worm, maybe a Shambling Strider, which I think was a 5/5 for 6 with some sort of fire breathing. So it was it was rough. It was a rough batch to start with. Very slow decks, and we had my partner and I at the time had a very incomplete understanding, I'm going to say, about the principles of deck construction and card evaluation, right? And this is only partly our fault, right? The game was in its infancy, and even the stores that were selling the stuff didn't know what they were doing. I remember finding 2 like dinged up motes in the 10-cent common bin of a store in a town that I was traveling through. Nice. I just felt like I'd gotten away with highway robbery. It was a different era. So
you're sitting there, you're cracking your Ice Age, you're getting your Jester's caps, you're putting them in your binder, and you're feeling good about it. And eventually you get into the game, you play a lot, you start the league. I know you go to some GPs, you live your life, and you get good at the game. And here we are at the league. How long has the league been going on? Years, right?
Yeah, it's been going on for years. It's been since 2006, I believe, is when we first started doing it. And by so it was in the University of Tokyo, in the research student residence in Shibuya. I just got my first research grant, and we had a bunch of students there who either had worked very hard or who'd come from privileged backgrounds. In either case, we were all being supported by the government of Japan, and as soon as you have that kind of condition, right? You have fairly, myself excluded, fairly bright people with no limitations on their time or their money, and they just go whole hog for pastimes. And so we had a sort of prototypical version of the league running out of Tokyo cafes. We just wanted excuses to open cards, really. So we had we opened cards, made sealed pools, and then whenever somebody lost, we'd add the punishment pack, right? And we thought it was a little bit of like a rap on the knuckles, like the loser has to pay basically $5 to get a pack.
Yeah.
That's where the name punishment pack comes from, right? Because we saw it as sort of low level betting where the victor doesn't get the money, but the loser loses it by having to open more product.
Oh man.
So that's where it started, and then there was a big gap, right? Because I sold all my cards and went out of the game for a few years in 2008, and then in 2013 came to Dubai, and I started teaching philosophy there. And because once again I was in a situation where it's a new country, not much to do, rekindling the old hobbies. Theros was out at the time, I think. And so I went to a local card shop. It was called Battle Zone. It's now defunct. And suggested that we formalize what I've been doing in Tokyo, which was just kind of like pissing around with sealed decks. And they went for it. And for a couple of years, we ran it from Dubai. And then we left. When I left Dubai, I took the idea with me to face-to-face games in Montreal. And so they were amenable to it, luckily. And from 2015 to 2020, we ran it in the store in Montreal, which is where most of the people you'll see, like the diehards on the server, probably come from that era. There's a few from the Battlezone days, but most of them are from face-to-face Montreal.
I actually didn't know that as a World Series league, it started in Japan and went to Dubai. I thought it was always Canada. That's some interesting information.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, not many people. I mean, we don't. Obviously, our format's emerging, so not many people know the deep cut history, and they just know when they started, right?
Yeah, exactly. Strixhaven. That's all I know.
Yeah, and that was a good point to come in. I think, right? That was a pretty high energy league.
Oh, it was
one of my favorites.
It was a great league, and we're gonna have a great league coming up this week. Alchemy, Brawldurs Gate, Horizon, whatever it's called. I'm not sure. It's a long name. It's a very long name.
Brawldurs Gate. That's what we're going to call it.
Brawldurs Gate. So that's the mechanic, right? Let's talk about the league mechanic. It starts moving to Saturdays, so don't play on Friday. We're going to be moving to Saturdays, guys. Get ready for that. So we got Brawldurs Gate. Tell us a little bit about how we came to this mechanic, how you expect this to work out. What should we expect from this new league, Chris?
Okay, well, first of all, we got to acknowledge it was Caleb's literary device to sort of combine Baldur's Gate and Brawl into Brawldurs Gate. It's his portmanteau word.
Genius idea.
So with Caleb and Johnny and Ryan and Mike and Andrew and myself, we've been cooking up the way to make a Brawl League work with this set. So we tried. After COVID made the league go online back in 2020, I think it was 2021 or late 2020, we tried to sort of work out a Brawl League online. The beta test was not good. Players just no, this we fixed all the defects, I think, that people didn't like, but I loved it personally. I was part of the 8 people that tried the play test. I loved it, but the people who didn't like it a lot. To the point where we abandoned the idea until we had a set that was perfect for it, right? A set that would have lots of legendaries, a set that was, sort of deep enough and weird enough to support it. So we came back at the idea with Baldur's Gate because it had so many legendaries in it. And to be honest, we didn't know anything else about the set. We just knew it was a commander draft set that had been adapted for Arena. That's all we knew because Wizards kept their cards so close to their chest for so long that we were struggling for any other details. So we tried the best we could to make the league look like the physical Commander pre-con modding leagues that we ran out of face-to-face. So part of that is the silver bullet mechanic, which I'll get into. So normally, as you know, in league, what we do is we crack a pack whenever we lose, and of course, what packs we can choose from depends on the format. That's still the case for Brawldurs Gate. You can choose any historic pack that you like to add to your pool. And why is that? Normally we don't allow that because Strixhaven still in standard and that dominates. But in Brawl, of course, you can't have a sideboard and the singleton rule applies. So you're not going to be able to abuse any particular set. So if everybody wants to go to Strixhaven, pick one pack, knock yourselves out. And also, like, War of the Spark is not an issue because we're not allowing Planeswalker commanders. So anything people want to choose, they can. But on the other hand, we have this silver bullet option, which is something new for the online leagues. So very quickly, some people enjoy the practice of fine-tuning their deck in a constructed way. Now we're at a sealed tournament primarily, but adding small upgrades in a sort of more targeted way is fine. That's why we call it the silver bullet, right? It solves a certain problem with your deck. And in the physical tournaments, we measure what you could add by the money it was worth. So you could add a $5 card.
I like that.
But this is an online league, so prices don't matter much anymore, but rarity does. So we are allowing people to open 1 uncommon and 2 commons, and those are your 3 silver bullets you can add for each loss that you take in the league. So that's the main mechanic. The Brawl aspect of it sort of brings a different feel. So Brawl, after you finish a game of Brawl, it doesn't offer you the chance to go to game 2. So you have to stop what you're doing, restart the match, which means that you have an opportunity to sideboard in an entirely new deck.
Oh,
So that's going to be something I think we're going to see more of. The only other thing I guess to mention via mechanics would be, why 9 packs? There's a reason for that, if you believe me. So here we go. Let's go into why. We looked at the regular packs, right? And there's usually let's say 2 cards per color guaranteed in the normal distribution.
sure.
Right. So if you have a 2-color commander, that means you can use around 4 cards a pack reliably, right? And that's not including things like artifacts and other sort of, free ads that you get. But we can guarantee you're probably going to get 4 cards per pack. So in a 60-card deck, right, you have 36 live cards. The rest are your 24 lands. So if we multiply or we divide 36 by 4, we get 9 packs. So you should be able to comfortably start with any 2-color combination that your commander allows and that suits your play style from day one, with a lot of room, mind you, for upgrades.
And Specialize, you pick basically one of any other color, right? And use that as your commander. Is that how that works?
Exactly. Yeah, okay. That's exactly how it works. So with those Specialized cards at uncommon, you're basically going to be able to choose your 2-color pair. I think, most 2-color pairs will be open to you, so you can find your best pool and choose the commander that fits it. It's going to be a strategically challenging format and a lot of fun too.
Oh, I think it's going to be great. I'm super excited for the ability to choose your own cards, pick your own archetype. Basically, what do you like to play? You can just kind of build that deck slowly over time. Very, very cool. That you give people that choice.
Yeah. I mean, certainly it's unique to any of our online offerings. I think we've had I don't know, between 15 and 20 online tournaments now, and this is our first singleton, our first Brawl. So a lot of firsts with this one. First chosen cards, right?
Yeah, get in there early, sign up, make sure you're in. This is, of course, coming out after pools have dropped, so you better have been signed up by now. It's going to be a good league. It's going to be a big league. It's going to have a lot of new players in it. With any new league, new players can kind of get lost in the shuffle. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to deal with on the Discord. Now you got the looking for match bot, which is fantastic, by the way. You got the pools. There's a lot to see, and you got the deck building. Do you have any tips for new players coming into the league? Maybe this is their first one, and they're not really sure what to do.
I'm sure about what they should do. They have to read. That's the first thing. You've got to be literate. You got to read the rules. You got to read the new player FAQ.
Okay.
You got to read the announcements thread. You got to read any message you're pinged in, because there could be some change to the tournament, or someone could be trying to find you for a match.
That's happened.
You got to read the player name bar. So click on the players' names when you're about to play them, and look at their participation and roles and prizing badges, and know who you're talking to and playing against. But above all, above literacy and sort of due diligence, you say hi, make friends, watch other people's streams, talk to them, put up your own streams and see who comes in and visits. We've got a great community, so don't be shy. But if you are, for any reason, worried about that aspect, yeah, use Sawyer's new, find match bot to overcome that awkwardness and sort of start, you know, a match with somebody and maybe get to know them, right? Like, I think a lot of people don't want to get into the chat rooms, but that's where the fun is, right? You were trying to sort of recreate the feeling of your local game store and talking to people about the plays and maybe have some laughs along the way. We're not trying to replicate the feeling of playing arena alone online. That's because that's not good for any human being. I think it's a very human adversarial relationship, that interface. So we want to play the game we love, from the comfort of wherever we are, but we also want to maintain the human element. So make sure you take advantage of that, right?
Yeah, and I'll second it. I'm awkward. I'm shy. I got social anxiety, right? Like this is how I like to play Magic more than in person because of things like that, and because of that, it can be hard for me to interact with my opponents. But in my first league, I was streaming. I was in there in the streams. You meet everyone's personality. You get to know people. There's a lot of people in this league, and they all kind of have their own quirks that make them real fun or real cool to play against. It's really a neat community that's here, and you want to be a part of it. You want to join in because that's what makes it so fun.
That's good for me to hear, John, that you were, that you are that kind of person, that you still were able to, overcome that initial trepidation and become, one of these pillars of our community. So that's kind of, how can I say it? That gives me hope.
So Chris, this question is going to come to us from Michael M. Adambaum. Okay. He wants to know your favorite and least favorite leagues you've had so far.
Okay, great question, Michael. Michael's one of our rules committee guys. Could have just asked me, I guess, in person, but maybe he's also one of these guys that would rather.
It's more entertaining to get it out, right? Everyone can hear your answer.
That's right. So, I guess I'll start with the worst league because that's what people are going to want to hear the dish on, I think. And it's what I have the strongest feelings about, So let's go with that one.
Yeah.
I think it was 2015 Dragons of Tarkir. So the league had gotten fairly popular in Dubai, and the management of Battlezone decided to take it over. So it was no longer player run.
Oh,
we didn't have control over the format. They were still running the league, but it was now the stores league instead of the players league. The first thing they did, because some people were complaining that they didn't get to play enough because they were eliminated, so the worst players wanted to play more. And of course that creates issues, right, with king making, and it creates issues with kind of like the league dragging, and putting people in who aren't really invested in the results is going to muddy the waters, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we have eliminations. First thing they did was take out eliminations, and they just let people play as much as they want, and they had the most sluggish, flaccid, undramatic, event that I've ever seen, and it killed interest in the format. Their first tournament out, and I'm like, this is why you need players, not store owners, running these formats, right? Because I don't know, you know what it's like, if your interest is just pleasing customers and selling cards, you don't really have a view for the format, right? You don't have a design.
It just never has to end. It's like keep buying packs, It's a 6-month-long tournament, Just let it go.
Yeah. Exactly, but that's directionless. So that was my least favorite league, because I just saw, I saw the sort of the way things could go wrong, and that made me realize that in the next place I went, I had to assure that we were independent from the store. In terms of the best league, that's going to be really tough because there's been some good ones. I'm going to say, like, for the online series, because I think that's what people are going to want to hear about.
Yeah.
I think that the high point would have to be Strixhaven for a couple of reasons. So you remember what it was like. That was your first league.
I love Strixhaven. That was a good time.
You know how people got into it, right? They got into their roles. They got into the identity of their various academies, right? Their groups, their factions.
Yeah.
They expressed themselves. They got deep into it. It wasn't too spiky, and the contest was fairly even, between. But there was lots of streaming, lots of, as you say, shit talking, and so on and so forth. Like, I just remember like the champion feature matches being streamed was an event every week that, like, at least like 10 people or 20 people would come and watch the best player from each faction just butt horns, for extra points for their faction. And there was something about that, right? That energy, like having, I think it was 96 players in the tournament. So it was like one of our first like big 100 player or so events, and just seeing everybody get into it and play hard and have a lot of fun was, yeah, it was really rewarding. And of course, our faction won overall.
Of course.
We got the side pot, lore
Yeah.
hold forever.
Rookie of the league, John P. No problem, guys. No problem.
Yeah, you made your deadbeat Dean look bad, right?
Oh, I mean, you just didn't open a mascot exhibition. That was your problem. You should open a mascot exhibition in your first 6-7 packs. It really goes a long way.
Yeah. I wasn't thinking. What was I thinking?
All right, Chris. This question comes from Damien. Please humor me on it. So Damien asks,
bracing myself.
Yeah. Damien says, "How can you prove to me that you are real? How can you, without any doubt, tell me that you are another human being and not a figment of my imagination? If my only interaction has been through this League of Magic Online, how can you assure me that you are a regular human being and not secretly working for Hasbro as a conniving way of depleting me of the rare mythic wild cards from the global population on Arena?"
My life's an open book. You can Google me, and that should talk Damien down out of his drug-induced hallucinatory
just Google him, Damien.
State of mind. Just
I know
Google me, baby.
Articles. He's got articles out there. I've seen them. I think I've Googled it before.
York on Games. The archive's there from face to face. You just go back and read some of my old rants, but still that might convince you. I mean, Davian's he's having it on. We've met in person. He played in the leagues in Montreal, and he's having a laugh here. But I mean, for people who joined online and who, like yourself, whose experience has only been online, maybe it might feel like that. And if so, I mean, do spend more time, talking to the humans that are here in the voice chats at the tables. And even though it's not common, maybe we should start, putting our cameras up and showing our faces and making the community a bit deeper.
Ooh, I've got a lot of people's faces in my heads, and I know they're not right. I don't know what most of the people in the league look like, but I got pictures of the face. Richard, I know what Richard looks like in my head. I know it's wrong, but I know what Richard looks like. All right, Chris, last question. I thank you for coming on the show, The Hunt the Week. We appreciate you coming on and doing the league every month, every few weeks. I'm sure it's a lot of work on your end, and I know we all appreciate what you do. Last question, Chris. Give me a prediction of what you think your record will be at the end.
Yeah. If you click on my name tag, you might get a bloated or inaccurate impression of my typical performance. But given my lack of how can I say it, top 8 appearances in the 2022 season, I'm just going to generalize, and I'm going to say that I'm probably going to end up anywhere between 12 to 14 wins before I get knocked out. So I always usually do a little bit better than breaking even, but only by a game or two. Only enough to keep my entry fee coming back to me. Like that. This is the dream, right? Going infinite.
Yeah, I haven't paid for anything since Strixhaven. I've been going infinite since then. It's great. I've paid $10 a year and a half ago. I don't know, and I'm still playing the league. It's great.
That's a good investment. That's a good investment on your entertainment buck.
Oh, it really is. I mean, again, a year, and plus, there's prizes from other things you get. It's not too hard to hit top 50. It's a good goal to have. Top 50, get your prizes, get your money back, play again, roll the dice.
Don't let the partner stores hear this. They'll ask us to raise the fees.
Oh no, don't do that. Don't do that. Well, Chris, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. I can't wait to see how the league shakes out. And maybe we'll have you on again some point on near the end. We'll kind of see how your prediction was, see if you got close to where you ended up.
Thanks, John, and thanks for doing this. I'm looking forward to getting to know more people in our community. your previous appearance or your previous show, Riveteer Radio,
Yes.
did a great job of bringing out player personality there that from the interview you did, and I think that it got people hyped for more of your work. So I'm very curious to see where your show goes, and I'm looking forward to the next iteration.
Oh, thank you. It's all trial and error. As it goes, it will evolve, as I'm sure the league did, and things will change and new things will happen. And I'm excited to see where this takes us. So Chris, I hope you had a good pool opened up, and I'm gonna avoid you. You're a good player. I don't like playing you. So we may not play, but if we do, I wish you luck.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Thanks
You
for
have
having me
yourself a good one. Thanks again for coming on.
You too.
And that's it for the show. It's kind of a long one. Sorry, the interview went very long. It's kind of what happens, but when you get someone like Chris York on the line, you got to talk to him. You got to get all the information you can, because this is the guy that rolls your pools, and you want to be on his good side. You want to be getting those Okos. You don't want to be getting, I don't know, what bad rare did I open? Mirror of Life Trapping. You don't want that card. It seems not very good. So I hope you have a great league. Get in your games, get in your matches, build your deck, get in the community, say hi, and become a part of the group. It's a big, fun time, lots of magic, lots of discussions, and this is a very interesting league. I'm not really sure what the correct strategy is, or what even I don't really know. What color pairs are there? What did you open? What do you want to play? It's kind of your choice. What kind of magic do you want to play? You can build your deck the way you want. Or you can just crack 10 Callantine packs and go snow. That sounds fun. We'll be back next week with another episode of Hunt the Week. Until then, I hope you get to keep a good 7 and the shuffler is in your favor. I'll see everybody next week. Bye, everyone.